Alright, so I've tried to make this video a few times. I've had a little bit of a different approach. Maybe I'll switch it up and that'll work better. It just didn't feel right. But I haven't made a video in a few days, and that's not because I've been giving up on this process of trying to sacrifice myself and my temporal desires for things that are better, things that are promised, right? Those things are still there. I just had some different priorities that I wanted to look after the last few days, and I think that that was better. But I just wanted to come and encourage you today to go farther and to exhaust yourself, not to burn out, not to do things that are harmful to yourself, but to go farther than you think you're capable of this week. I think all of us at some point in time in our life are going to realize that we can work harder than we thought we were capable of before. And, you know, one thing that I've been learning about not giving as much time to little, stupid things like I've mentioned, like being on my phone, is it's given me a much more realistic perspective of what my day looks like. And I don't feel this dread or sadness or angst over not being able to get done these things that I'm now realizing might be unrealistic in the season that I'm in. I mentioned at the very beginning of this series that I wanted to learn how to code, but it always, there's these things that always feel like they're preventing me from being able to do that. And I think before I kind of had this like unrest in my soul because I felt like that was all my fault. And it kind of was. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't my fault, but I'm saying that I wasn't even seeing what was possible. I was complaining, yet I was shooting myself in the foot. But recently I've been staying at school, leaving early, getting home at in the afternoon, like 5-6 p.m., right, and then going to bed a little after 9, waking up at 5, doing it all over again, right, and going to bed exhausted mentally, physically. And so, like I mentioned, that's been giving me a much more realistic perspective of what it is that I can really get out of things, and making me just be glad for where I'm at instead of always wanting more, and realizing what it's going to take to do things that I feel like are necessary, and have a little bit more of a, I've said this a few times now, realistic perspective on what exactly I am going to have to sacrifice from my own wants in order to get those things. And so I've barely had enough time to finish my my work, right, aside from the things that are kind of secondary, like learning to code and stuff, because I'm really trying hard to do well in my schoolwork and teaching and all those things, right? But in that, this semester, I've been working harder, I believe, than I have in a while. And I think I was forced to work harder in the past, but I didn't want to, and I wasn't seeing it the same way. Still had these kind of bad habits. But now I'm putting myself in that position. I'm taking the time, and then when I'm not working, I'm trying to be there for other people, or I'm working out, XYZ. And I'm just realizing that I'm able to go a little bit farther than I think I was capable of, or than I thought I was capable of. And that's not because I'm me, but it's because we just don't understand our limits. And that's not like a cliche, like, you can do more than you think you can type thing. It really is like, I think we sell ourselves so short, and if we realized all the ways that we really do handicap ourselves on a daily basis, I think we'd have a much more realistic understanding of really, hey, this is something I could get done. These are things that I can do. These are things I can't do. There's only 24 hours in a day. I need to sleep. I need to eat. And so this is me coming to you and just saying, in this point in time in your life, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're doing, but I just invite you to try and do something that requires you to go farther than you thought that you were capable. Not anything, like I mentioned, that was dangerous or that's unhealthy, both emotionally or mentally or physically, but going a little bit farther. And if that looks like to you working out a little bit harder than you thought you were capable of, or or maybe running a little bit longer than you had planned or whatever, just trying, or setting your phone aside for the day. And this doesn't look like me, when I say that I'm not on social media, that doesn't mean that I have a flip phone or that I don't have Instagram or these things. Those things are on my phone still, right? And it's not because I want them to be there as kind of like a temptation, but I just haven't really even cared to delete them. It's not like them being there really makes me want them, because I want something greater. And, like, the reason I brought that up is because I don't want you to think that the answer to this is to sell yourself into some sort of monastic lifestyle where you're setting aside everything, no people around you, no friends, no family, nothing that tastes good in your life. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that, when we take account of our life and we really ask ourselves, the things that we're doing that we should give up, we know are bad for us. Like, without a doubt, without a question in our mind, these things aren't helping us get where we want to go. What would it look like for you to give that up? And what would you really be missing if you did? And I would wager a guess that you wouldn't be missing anything. And, when you went to bed and you were tired after a hard day of work, you wouldn't regret it. And I haven't been regretting it lately. And so I hope that out of these videos, you see a normal person here trying to communicate to you just an example of what it looks like to try, because I am trying, and I think that when I get to the end, and when you get to the end, the most important thing for us will be that we tried, and we really did it. How sad it is how sad is it when we hear stories of people where they say, I could have done this thing, or I wish I would have done this. If the circumstances were a little bit different, I would have been great. And it's not that the goal is what we're always going for, but I think the goal itself is to try. It's not these things necessarily that we envision for ourselves, but it's really squeezing the potential out of this life in whatever way that looks for you. And I don't think that you should take what I'm doing and exactly apply it if that doesn't exactly translate to your life. Don't copy someone else's thing because you think that that's the blueprint for feeling good about yourself or whatever. I had to kind of set aside the noise and look at my own self, because like I mentioned in the first video, I don't think anybody from the outside looking in would say, Benji, you're lazy, you're neglecting your life, you're doing the wrong things, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, none of that was coming my way. But instead what it was the inner voice in me, the person that knows me, telling me at the end of an hour playing Minecraft or something, where I'm in this fantasy world building this thing, right? This house and all this, going exploring and stuff like that. I mean, you know how it goes. When I got to an hour, or got to the end of an hour of that, I just felt empty, and I held that feeling, I held on to it, and then I thought about what it was going to mean for me to act as a man, in my life. Was it going to look like building out a fantasy world, or doing the hard things that I needed to provide for my family, to feel good about my work, right? To be able to provide for my friends if they need it or anything like that. And so all this to say, this upcoming week, we're going to have Labor Day on Monday, but try to go a little bit farther. I don't know what that looks like for you, and I hope you don't just assume that what that looks like is what I'm doing, but I want you to just go a little bit farther, to have a night where you go to bed exhausted, and you just trust yourself that these things that are bad for you, you're not going to miss them at all. They're not adding anything to your life. Scrolling social media isn't adding anything to my life, right? Playing hours and hours of Minecraft by myself wasn't adding anything to my life, okay? And there is value in those things, especially the social aspect. But it was something that was kind of gnawing at me, and it was taking me away from life. It was taking me away from the social aspects of my life, with my wife, with other people, my friends, talking with people. And so go away with that. Leave this video with the feeling that maybe there is something you need to change, and maybe there is something that you could change that would really change your life. And I want you to understand, like, these effects, like these things that I've been feeling aren't massive. I haven't had people come up to me and say like, man, oh my gosh, your life is changing so much. I think for the most part, the changes are things that I feel inside myself, and that's enough for me. Because it doesn't matter what other people think about me at the end of the day anyways. I want to be proud of myself. And so take what you will. Be encouraged if any of this was encouraging. And I hope you have a wonderful week.